Welcome back to the KJ MMA show. I'm your host, Garrett Kerman, and with me, as always, is my man, Ryan Drell. What's up, man? How's it going?
It is going good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back on the heels of such an amazing event at UFC 273. What a fight card, top to bottom, amazing. What were your thoughts on that historic event that just passed by?
Well, the thing that I'm going to remember more than anything else about UFC 273 is just how damn good Alexander Volkanovski is. He put on an absolute clinic over the Korean Zombie. Everyone, I think, is in agreement that that fight should have been stopped earlier, but the Zombie is just so tough, hence the nickname, the Korean Zombie. So, but I'll tell you what, Alexander Volkanovski just really seems to be getting better, and I wasn't sure that was possible. And now he's talking about teasing a move to 55 to compete for another title there. I don't hate it. I definitely feel like no matter what happens, if he wins or loses at 55, and that's a story for another day, but he can always go back to 45 and defend the belt. There's always going to be that other Max Holloway fight that's waiting for him. And there will always be another contender that comes along. So, I like it. I like the fact that a lot of these, champions are looking to go and win multiple belts. I think it's good for the sport and some aspects. It does hold up the division and as far as the negative side of it goes. But I'm intrigued to see what Volkanovski could do at 55. I mean, we've seen what he used to walk around at when he was a rugby player. He was like 230 pounds, man, and he wasn't fat. He was jacked and just stocky. He looked like a NFL fullback or something, and now here he is down at 45, just running through the division. So that's what I'm going to remember the most. Granted, Sterling Young was a great fight. Chimaev Burns, an unbelievable fight. And obviously Chimaev, the star, just is getting bigger and bigger. But Volkanovski's it for me. What is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, Volkanovski, that performance was, kind of expected. I kind of expected that kind of performance from him, but it was just amazing. Just all around, just a great performance. I would love to see him move up to 155. I don't want to see him go against Oliveira. I want to wait until Islam beats Oliveira so we get Islam versus Volkanovski, because I think that would be the best matchup, because you have the two best in the division, because I don't think Oliveira is the best at 155. I think he's probably second best. I think he will lose to Islam eventually, and I do think he beats Gaethje. But I want to see Volkanovski take on Islam Makhachev. I think that would be a fantastic fight. But the rest of the card, I mean, it's hard not to talk about Gilbert Burns and Hamza Chimaev. What a fight. I knew it was going to go, past the first round. I knew that we were going to see a lot more out of Chimaev in this fight against Burns. And he showed a lot. He showed a lot of adversity. He showed that he could take a punch. He showed that he can go 15 minutes. He showed that he could fight in there with the best. I don't know if he could beat Usman. We'll see when that does eventually happen. But I do see him beating Colby Covington when that fight happens.
You do, really?
Absolutely. Because we know Colby has a chin that faults him time and time and time again. We've gotten 3 straight fights where he's been knocked down 5 times in 3 fights. He's getting knocked down against Chimaev. It's the inevitable.
But do you think Chimaev hits as hard as Usman?
Absolutely. See,
I'm not so sure about that. I feel like Usman's power is pretty.
I think it's definitely neck and neck. I mean, these two guys are extremely powerful. I don't think he has the technique as Usman. No way, no how. But I do think his power is on par. I don't think he'd be able to beat Usman, though. I think Usman's just a technically better fighter all around. And I think he's going to be able to land more efficiently than Chimaev. Chimaev's a little wild, but he's still got power in those hands.
So do you not think that Colby is technical?
He's more technical, right? Yes, he is. And I do think he'll throw more volume. But at the end of the day, that chin is going to get cracked. And we've seen him get dropped against Masvidal. We've seen him get dropped 4 times against Usman. He got dropped against Masvidal.
The one against Masvidal, I felt like was kind of it was the positioning. It was the positioning, and it's not like he was dropped. Like he was dropped from Usman in that first fight when he broke his jaw, right?
And
like,
then the second
he
fight
was
twice.
dropped. but like he got back up, and you could make an argument that he almost he could have won that second fight against Usman. A lot
Right.
of people thought
Right.
that Covington won the fight. So like my whole thing is, I just think like so many MMA fans are prisoners of the moment. You know what I mean? Like Covington fought Usman, who people are saying is the best pound for pound fighter in the world, tooth and nail for 50 minutes
But
in two
also,
fights.
styles make fights though too.
Styles make fights too, but
You
like
know.
what I'm seeing right now, and don't get me wrong, I think Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal, but like, bro, he hasn't fought anyone on the level of Gilbert Burns until just recently. All the guys that he's beat previously, they're way down on the pecking order compared to these guys at the top of the division. And so for my money, I felt like Gilbert Burns was massively disrespected going into this
He
fight.
was. He was.
It was he was incredibly disrespected, and he showed that he's an elite level welterweight, and he's a former lightweight. He came up, you know, as you saw the size difference. I'm not so certain that Chimaev's skills are on the level of a Covington and an Usman. I think there's a scare factor to him because he's big, he's scary looking, he's strong, he's running through all these people, and he, you know, just listening to him talk, you know, I smash you, brother, and all that stuff. Like he's putting that fear in everyone, you know, across the division. But I'm not sold, man. Like I think skill wise, I'm picking Covington. If that fight happens, I think Covington beats him. I would even go as far as saying that he could finish Khamzat late in the fight. Call me crazy.
I mean, it's not far fetched to be honest with you. I just like outside Usman and Masvidal. I mean, who has Colby really beaten in age? Tyron Woodley. Before that, pretty much nobody. Damian Maya, I guess. I mean, didn't really do much there. I mean, and just so on and so forth. I just don't know. I don't even know if he would even fight him. To be honest with you, I think he just tried to avoid that kind of fight because I mean, it's not going to do anything for him. And then on top of it, I just think the thing is with Khamzat, he didn't want to be in the ground with Burns because he was, you know, getting caught in, you know, some arm bars and triangle attempts, stuff like that. There's no way that Colby's going to do anything on his back. So Khamzat can go in there and take him down whenever the hell he feels like it and beat the shit out of him.
You think he takes Colby down?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. See,
Absolutely.
I think he's going to struggle to get him down. Colby's so savvy in his wrestling defense. I mean, he was a standout wrestler.
Yes,
So
he's a great wrestler. Don't get me wrong, but every wrestler can get taken down. Elite Olympic wrestlers can get taken down. We saw that in actually at UFC 273, the first time Mark Madson's ever been taken down in his MMA career. You know,
yeah.
against a guy that's not even a wrestler, a guy who's a striker.
Well,
So
I mean,
you know,
the,
and the thing is, Chimaev is also a, you know, he's a very high level wrestler himself. I mean, he was a Swedish national champion, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. So I mean, yes, he's not a collegiate wrestler, he's not an All American, but he's still extremely high level, in my opinion.
don't get me wrong. I think Khamzat's ceiling is very, very high, but I think he was exposed a little bit in this fight with Burns. I think the hype train stalled just a touch in the hardcore MMA fans' eyes because he looked untouchable prior to this fight with Burns, and Burns dropped him. Burns looked pretty good, and he won that second round. Like this was not an easy fight. You
No,
easily, like, this could have been one where Khamzat could have lost this fight. So I don't know. For me, I'm incredibly intrigued to see what happens next because Khamzat, I think, got humbled a little bit. Maybe this will make him a smarter, more calculated fighter next, which maybe that's what we see. And he goes out there and fights a smart fight rather than just coming forward looking to smash everyone and finish people in the first round. Because when you get to the higher level, you know, in these divisions, you're facing guys that are so well rounded, and that's what Colby Covington is. He's incredibly well rounded, and obviously Usman too. So I just feel like really, really intriguing matchups, and I don't think they're gimmies for
no,
Khamzat. I think,
definitely not.
yeah. So, but look what this conversation. Look how polarizing he is. This is why Dana White and the UFC are behind this guy, because like he checks off so many boxes to be like a star. So lucky for them, he got the win over his first like extremely tough test in the UFC octagon, but a lot of exciting fights for him at 170 and even at 185 moving forward. Let's talk about Sterling and Jan. Do you think the right guy won?
Ah, man. At first, I didn't think so. Maybe it was because I had money on Jan. Maybe I was a little bit biased, but after the dust settled and I had some time to think about it, and 24 hours later, I'm like, it was close. It could have gone either way. I know the argument is he landed more strikes, but at the end of the day, judges aren't looking at strikes. They don't have no strike count. They have nothing of the sort, so they're going by what they saw. Me personally, I saw him just dance around, throw some kicks, and just stay on the outside while Jan was controlling the center, coming forward, pressuring. But Jan didn't start landing anything until halfway through the round, so he pretty much dropped half the round right then and there. And he outstruck it by like a couple strikes, 6 or 7 strikes, nothing crazy, but ultimately he did more. So he did more, he threw more, he landed more. So eventually, ultimately, you had to give him the win there. But also, round two had to have been a 10-8 round. I mean, on the scoring criteria, that's a 10-8 round if I have ever seen one.
Yeah, I feel like Petr Yan has like the perfect style and skill set for these 5-round title fights because he just gets better the longer the fight goes. If this was like a fight to the death, Petr Yan would have won the fight, right? But
Absolutely.
right, but like the right guy won. Aljamain won the fight, and honestly, I feel like it's even better for the division because Jan is like the Terminator. He's going to come back, but he needs to find a way to kind of pick up the pace or do something against these high level guys at bantamweight a little bit sooner rather than just kind of like waiting and being methodical early on and then getting better as the fight gets into the later rounds. So I think we're going to see some adjustments from him in his next fight. But for me, I don't think you make this trilogy right now. There's no reason to. I think you let Aljamain fight someone next that he called out TJ Dillashaw and making all these names. I love that fight. I don't know who you give Jan to. Maybe Jose Aldo. How much fun would that be? And
Again,
yeah,
though.
yeah. I mean, sure, and or someone else. I'd love to see Aldo maybe with another title shot before he hangs it up. So a lot of great matchups here at bantamweight, but the right guy won. And I just find it funny that like everyone was getting all over Aljo like after that first fight, saying, "Oh, he's the fake champ," and Jan was going to win, and all this, and that may be true, right? But like he can't help the fact that he was kneed like that
It
illegally. I mean, it
it's
happened.
it's just all the things that he did after the fact. You know what I mean? I mean, he went. I don't care about the whole. He held the belt, called himself a champ after the knee. He's celebrating with people there. Everybody wants him to take a picture with the belts, whatever. It's the after effects. It's
Mhm.
the heel, and the way he ran away with it that got under everybody's skin. Most importantly, got under Piotr Jan's skin,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what eventually made him fight such a bad fight. He fought with emotions, whereas Aljo just went in there and fought his fight. He fought
Mhm.
smart. He fought great. He fought amazing. Whereas Jan was trying to just beat the shit out of him, and it wasn't effective at all.
So, UFC matchmaker Garrett Kerman, what are the next matchups for Aljamain and Petr Yan? Who would you give him?
That's tough. I feel like go with TJ Dillashaw. Everybody wants to see that fight. Everybody wants to see, Dillashaw, get in there and fight for a title, even though he technically doesn't really deserve it. But I think that'll be a good fight. I have Sterling winning that fight as well. I mean, an aging TJ Dillashaw is not going to be, you know, prime Aljamain Sterling right now. I mean, Aljamain Sterling is prime. I feel like Sterling would probably finish him inside 3 rounds too.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And
Well,
Jan, man, that's a tough one. I really don't know where to go with Jan. I mean, who's at the top? I mean, I personally, this won't happen, but we talking about Henry Cejudo is coming back. I would love to see Cejudo take on Jan. It won't happen because we know Cejudo wants to go to 45. He wants to fight for the title, or any title for that matter, and I get it. But if he has to fight somebody that's not for a title, I would love to see it to be Jan.
Yeah, I don't hate that, but I mean, can Cejudo really win at 45? I don't want to get off topic here, but my
No,
goodness,
no,
man,
he's not beating
that's
Volkanovski. That's obviously not going to happen. But it'd be a great fight. I think that would be a fantastic fight to see.
It'd be interesting to see, that's for sure. Anything on the undercard that stood out to you, Garrett? I know for me, I always hate it when my boy Jared Vandera loses, but I'll
Oh,
tell you what, the backstage interaction between him and Oleinik was just so cool to see. I mean, it's always wanting to learn, and then you got this veteran with like a zillion submission victories who gets the job done at an advanced stage. Like, really cool moment for me.
yeah, I was. It was upsetting seeing him, lose the way that he did. In the fight IQ was just like not there to just. I know he's a black belt in his own right, but it's Alexei Oleinik. The guy has got like 100 submissions.
Just
Um,
stay on your feet. Just
yeah,
stay
I
on
mean
your feet.
you're winning the fight,
Yeah.
but the thing is, they're fighting. It's in the heat in the moment. He gave up his back, basically letting him do what he did just so he could just reverse him and get on top. And then the way the Olenek transitioned from like I think it was from like half guard to mount to the scarf hold choke within like milliseconds. It was like he cinched it up in seconds. I'm like, oh, it's over. It's over. There's no chance he
Yeah.
was getting. I like once he got that, I'm like, it's over. There's no chance he's getting out of that. I was like, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
No, for sure. Anything on the undercard for you that stood out outside of that one?
Um, I would say probably Mike Malott. I mean, that was a pretty nasty knockout by him. The way he just destroyed Mickey Gall's face with just a short left hook. It wasn't even wound up or anything. It was just like right there, boom, done. And he face planted. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this kid is real deal. He's a real
Yeah.
deal.
And very cool to see what he's doing, raising money for his coaches. Is it daughter? His coach's daughter?
I
Is that
think so.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Very cool. She has can't. Well, not cool that she has cancer. Very cool that he did that to help fight her cancer. That
Yeah,
is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I lost my dad to cancer, so I absolutely hate it. And I reached out to him. I was hoping to get an interview with him, but did not happen. But I loved that moment. I thought it was so cool and good for him for raising awareness and doing what he can to help his coach's daughter. One other thing I wanted to say before we transition to UFC Vegas 51 this Saturday, Garrett, is Ian Gary beat Darian Weeks, and I know he's getting a lot of hype because he's from Ireland. They're saying he's the next Conor McGregor and all that. I just like to know what you think about that because for me, he's got a long way to go before we get these Conor McGregor comparisons. I get he's from the same country and all of that, and he's a good fighter, but Conor came out of nowhere and just was steamrolling people. Darian Weeks is no joke. It was a good win, but I just don't like these Conor comparisons so quickly. I think it's just not right.
yeah. I mean, he's a good fighter, and I do think he's got a ton of potential. And being at Sanford MMA, I do think they're gonna be able to, untap that potential that he has. And the comparisons are there because he talks a lot. He talks like him. He's trying to put his name out there, and I get it. And you're always going to get that, especially from a big mouth, Irish fighter. And we're always going to get that until he gets finished or he loses, and then there goes that, and then he'll back to the drawing board and he'll have to do it all over again, try it. But I think eventually he will get an L once he starts moving up the ladder and starts fighting better competition. But I do think he's got the skill, and he just needs to get a little bit better. And to be honest, I didn't think he was going to get a finish in that fight from the beginning. I knew that fight was going to go the distance. I knew he was going to win the decision, and I knew it was going to go over on the rounds. It had a feeling that Weeks is tough. He's got a chin on him. He was going to have to defend some takedowns, and they were do a lot of cage work, and that's exactly what I expected. And but he showed that he can go the distance. He showed that he's a well-rounded fighter. He could defend takedowns, and he can stand in there and hang in there for 15 minutes. So it was good. It was good for him, to be able to go the distance and really show his well-rounded set.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, a win's a win. Darren Reeks is a tough guy, so interesting to see what might be next for Ian Gary. All right, UFC Vegas 51 is this Saturday. Garrett, help make us some money. The main event, Vicente Luque, Belal Muhammad. Luque is a minus about 180 favorite. Muhammad is plus 155. Break this one down for me, man. Who you put money on here?
Oh man, it's a great fight. I know a lot of people are on Vicente Luque. I'm taking the shot on the dog here in Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. I think he's progressed a ton since their last fight, obviously, because that was a short notice. I think it was his debut fight, if I'm not mistaken. They both gotten a lot better since then. Muhammad's been working tirelessly on his grappling, his wrestling. He's looked great. I know he's been training all over the place, getting in work. I know he's been training at AKA with all the Russians there. He's been going all over the place trying to get in as much work as humanly possible. And I feel like it's gonna work out for him. I don't see Luque catching him in a Dars. I don't see him catching him in any submissions. Could he get a knockout on the feet? Yes, but I do think Muhammad's got the cardio advantage. He's got the wrestling advantage. I do think he'll be able to get some control time, wear on him. And Luque, he hasn't gone 25 minutes very often. He hasn't gone 15 minutes very often as well because he's finishing his opponents. I mean, he has, don't get me wrong, but he's been finishing everybody, whereas Muhammad's been going to decision against almost everybody, and he doesn't get finished. So he's racking up the fight time, the cardio, and I just like him in this matchup. I really do like the over 2.5 rounds as well at minus 145. I think that's kind of a steal if you do have that line. I do think this fight's going the distance, and whoever's winning is going to get their hand raised via decision. So if you even look at the decision props, we have Luque winning a decision at plus 300. And even if I would sprinkle a little bit on that, or Muhammad by decision, which is plus 275. So they think if this hits the judges' scorecards, they're thinking Muhammad has a better chance of winning on the judges' scorecards than Luque does.
I actually agree with you. I think Muhammad's going to win a decision here. I think his wrestling is going to be the difference here. If he's in any trouble, I think he's going to be able to utilize his wrestling and control position. And I think he's savvy enough and durable enough to get this to a judge's decision. So I like that. I would definitely throw Belal Muhammad into a DraftKings lineup for me. I'm not going to be going out and throwing money, but DraftKings lineups for me all day long. Another fight I really wanted to get your take on, man. Devin Clark and William Knight. These guys are 205ers, and they're fighting at heavyweight because Devin's original opponent couldn't get over here, had some visa issues. So William Knight accepted the fight, but said too short notice to make 205. Really intriguing here. And I know Devin is a minus 170 favorite. William is plus 150 dog. Who do you see winning this one?
Man, it's hard to bet on either one of these guys. It's hard to trust your money on either one of these guys. But I feel, Clark will do well early on, but I think as the fight progresses, he'll start to fade a little bit. And now that the fight's at heavyweight, I feel like Knight's going to be a lot better. He's going to be better conditioned. He doesn't have to, there's no weight cut involved whatsoever. I do think he defends some of the takedowns and, just puts it on him as the fight progresses. Not overly confident, but I'd rather take a shot on William Knight as a dog than taking Devin Clark at minus 170 or worse than that.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that. Now, Pat Sabatini against TJ Laramie. Sabatini is a minus 490 favorite. Is this a lock?
Absolutely. Yeah. Pat Sabatini is a bona fide top 10 fighter. I've said this before he came into the UFC. The dude is legit. Striking is crisp. His grappling is his bread and butter. Laramie got choked out his first fight in the UFC, which was 2 years ago. He had to take 2 years off after that fight just to, kind of get better. And plus, he's severely undersized at 145. I mean, he's not that tall. He's not that powerful. He's not that great. He's not extremely strong wrestler like a Sabatini. So I'm not sure where he's going to, win this fight. He's going to have to keep it on the feet. And he's going to have to land some hands and knock him out because on the mat, this is a Renzo Gracie black belt. I mean, he's basically the 145-pound Sean Brady, essentially.
Okay. Wow, yeah, great analysis right there from the fight analyst. Now, a couple more I want to get your take on. Chris Barnett, minus or plus 200 dog against Martin
Bidet,
Bidet.
I think,
I'm
right?
not sure if I pronounced that correctly. He's a minus 250 favorite. Now, this guy's 9-1. We don't know quite as much about him as we've seen Barnett in the UFC already, but like, is this a case where you can bet on Barnett as an underdog? I mean, he's kind of one of those unassuming guys where he doesn't necessarily look the part. He's not carved out of stone or anything, but he's super athletic and he's got a lot of power. Can he get it done here?
I mean, he could. I don't think he will. I'm kind of very heavily invested in Bidet on this fight. Got him at minus 225. I think he gets it done. I mean, he's as big as Ben Rothwell. He's as long as Ben Rothwell. He's as more powerful than Ben Rothwell, and he's got some good grappling to go with it. And I feel like the UFC knows that Barnett's not going to be a contender at all in the UFC, so they're kind of feeding him to these contenders now, or these guys, these not contenders but prospects, like a guy that's only 9-1, and
Mhm.
see how they do. If he does well, if Day does well, they'll give him another step up in competition. But if he doesn't do well, they're like, well, maybe he didn't. He shouldn't be here because I mean, if you look at it, the guy's gonna have a 7-inch height advantage and about the same in reach as well. Barnett's only 5'9", and his only win, notable win is against Jan Vellante, who is a blown up light heavyweight who was retiring momentarily after that fight.
Mhm.
So, and then look how bad he did against Ben Rothwell, who also got cut. So it's not looking good for Barnett against somebody who's younger, who's twice his size, who's gonna be probably 280, 285 in the octagon. So this is a guy that cuts to make 265.
Mhm.
So it's not like he's gonna have some weight advantage on Bidet. He's not. He's gonna be maybe a little bit faster, I'd probably say. But outside of the realm of a flash knockout, I just don't see skill for skill how he's gonna get this win.
Okay, I like it. Bidet all day. I'm going to go with what you're saying right there. We're running short on time, but I got to get one more in from you, Garrett. Trey Ogden, Jordan Levitt. Trey Ogden making his UFC debut, minus 145. Jordan Levitt, plus 185, if I'm saying
One
that correctly.
125.
125. Okay. So how is this one going to shake out? Trey Ogden, I'm really excited to see him. This is his first time in the UFC. And Jordan Levitt, we know a little bit more about him. So break this one down first.
Trey Ogden wins, and I'm fairly confident in his abilities. He's now going to be in his 20th professional fight, which is double the amount of Jordan Levitt coming into this fight. He's fought much better competition on the regional scene, even while Jordan Levitt's making his fourth fight inside the UFC. And then Jordan Levitt's had some pretty cupcake matchups in his 2 wins in the UFC. I mean, you got Matt Wyman with the slam. Wyman's terrible at grappling. Then you have Matt Sales, who is a bantamweight who couldn't make bantamweight, so he had to go up to 145, and he's a terrible grappler as well. And then the one guy that could grapple with him was Claudio Puelles, and he beat the shit out of him. So I feel like it's going to be more the same here. Ogden is, training at Glory MMA, so he's getting a ton of grappling in. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt in his own right. He's got a plethora of experience. This is his time. He's been ready. He's ready for the UFC, and he's shown that he's been ready. I mean, he dominated, I think it's JJ Okanovich in his last fight. He dominated everywhere. Okanovich is a really good striker and a pretty good grappler in his own right, training at AKA, and he absolutely dominated him in every facet of that fight, and that was extremely impressive. Whereas Jordan Levitt, I mean, he's not a good striker, and he's got some flashy submissions. And that's the only thing that I'm a little worried about is if Ogden, goes in there and takes him down and is very lazy and plays guard like he did against Okanovich, because Okanovich had a pretty deep armbar. If he does that against Levitt, he could get caught. But outside of that, I don't see how Levitt's going to win. If Ogden defends the takedowns to keep this fight on his feet, he wins all day, every day of the week. There's no chance he loses this fight on the feet. It's just whether he wants to keep it there and he doesn't want to, have bad fight IQ and play in the wheelhouse of Levitt, But Ogden, I have all day. I truly believe in his abilities. I think he's a good fighter, and I think he gets the job done.
If there was one fighter in the UFC that I could have the physique of, it might be Trey Ogden. This guy is carved out of absolute stone. So can't wait for this one. That's going to do it for today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Our UFC 273 recap and then previewing UFC Vegas 51. Make sure you subscribe to the Vegas Odds YouTube channel. For Garrett Kerman, I'm Ryan Jarrell. We will see you guys next week.